safe, a sense of assurance he never got in his past life. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.